when you're young, I think it takes a special kind of person for that to permutate in a way through academia, because they're benchmarking you on effectively textbooks and not necessarily your ability to use it, but your ability to just absorb the information and regurgitate it.
Yeah.
And so, I had that same problem, is that, that material didn't sink in. But, again, so flipping forward that 14 years later, whatever it was.
Still got those words of the drama teacher being like, "You are good. You should come back to this."
Yeah, it was more along the lines of I didn't remember that the whole time. I'd forgot that. It's not like through 13 years, every now and then I remember that. It was literally after this weird day, I was like, oh yeah, I remember him saying that. And then and it's like a gong going off in my ear. You should maybe go back to do an acting class, see if you like it. I did a Meisner course, actually, a week-long course.
Right.
I remember talking heavily with my teacher, and him seeing that I was very driven and I was sort of soaking up everything and learning everything. And I remember coming out of that the very first lesson and actually saying to my ex-wife, I said, wow, this is the thing I should have been doing my whole life. It was a real transitional moment. And it was literally my life flashed between my eyes. Remember everything you've done? Well, that kind of is not what you should have been doing. And you went left when you should have gone right. And then I was just hungry for it. I was like, it was unlike training for MMA, where I felt like I was good or I liked winning.
Right.
Acting was well, I enjoy this. Even if I'm bad at it, I still want to be good at it, if that makes sense.
Still kind of have a blast doing it, and I want to get better at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so did more classes. And I remember at the end of that course, I said to my drama teacher, I'm going to go out and get some work and get some acting roles. And he was kind of sniffed it, you're doing well, but you've only really scratched the surface. You're not going to
done a week's course, pal. How about we just calm down? I've been doing this for many, many years, and it takes a long time.
Yeah, and me being headstrong was I'm going to show you. And so I did. I went out and got roles, and I got cast a few times in minor things and got a lot of experience, and used the money I made from that to go back and do a second term with him. And when I came back and told him what I'd done, he was kind of surprised, and also at the same time not surprised. So he was surprised that I really did do it, but then at the same time he was like, if anyone was going to do it, it's going to be you. I got that from your personality. And then that's when he kind of asked me personally, he said, what have you done throughout your life? And I explained, and he said, well, that explains it. You've got this athletic determination that a lot of actors don't have, that come out of academia,
And if I'm honest, creatives don't have. I was a musician for an awful long time. I still play, but I wouldn't class myself as a musician, because those guys playing all the time, that is their thing. That is what they do day in, day out. They wake up and think of a song, and they go to bed thinking of a different tune. But the thing I found, and now we run a creative agency, so we're working with people who, when they were kids, wanted to be an artist, and now they're a graphic designer, or people who wanted to make film and are getting the chance to do it. There is literally kind of two halves of it, where some people are fully creative and don't have, I wouldn't say any drive, but don't have the tools necessarily to build what drive looks like, or build a process. I'm going to get to it from point A to point B, or even say what is point B, because their head is in the creative space. Or there's the real successful lot who, and there's some very successful people in there who are just pure creatives, and they're just pure talent. And I guess same thing we were kind of talking about fighting earlier. If you're one of those athletes who is just such a specimen that it doesn't matter who they are, they're gonna kind of ascend. But the people who, and you hear it from tons of musicians, actors, everyone, but the ones who really make it are the ones who just keep grinding and getting through it, because there's so many people looking for a role. There's so many people.
That tenacious attitude is the one thing I've fostered throughout my whole life that served me well. It's an indomitable trait that is I'm thankful for, and I'll have a lot of gratitude that I'm able to put my nose to the grindstone and just go. And I will not be outworked. I will not it doesn't matter if they're more gifted than me, more talented than me. I look at it okay, you might be more talented, more gifted than me right now, but I'll keep going until you're no longer more talented than me or gifted than me. We'll just keep going until you drop down, because I'll fail as many times as I have to be successful.
I love that so
yeah.
much.
Well, that's not always garnered in some people, right? Like, if I looked back over my whole life, my life has been conducive to that, from my environment growing up as a working class kid, seeing what other, like, having a taste of like upper middle class lifestyle from my grandparents sort of inspired me to be like, there's more, and I can work. If I work for it, I can get there. And martial arts teaching me that hard work pays off in other ways,
in results. But you know, it's like I've been amazed over the last 4 years, as I've 4 or 5 years, when I just had never done any exercise beforehand. It was for other people as far as I'm concerned. What it's taught me though is the little wins. Just little wins. I couldn't bench well, right? And I learned all of the movements to then get in. And now I can bench better. And like, but I put hard work in to do it. And I can, when you finally get that, you throw a punch right, you throw a kick right, you get that choke right. When you finally get that little bit, like that little win from all the work you put in, it's so rewarding, and it just spurs the brain on to be like, well, what if I was to work harder? What if I was to put more hours in? Especially if you've got like a nice addictive personality like me. Like those wins are so addictive. Like, that achievement is like, well, if I achieved at that and I put half the work in, maybe I could double it up and try even harder. So jumping into acting, right? Where did you even start? What do you do? Just Google acting jobs, or?
Yeah, I mean, it does start like that to some degree. I mean, anyone who wanted to start in it, I would say first thing is seek out some learning. Like, just go and do there are plenty of places you can Google, like, if you're London based, like London beginners acting class. You could just Google that and like start humbly. Imagine you're a complete noob, even if you're not, and you want to go back into it, or you're starting it for the first time. And that's the best way to learn. And the way to learn is by doing. So you go to that course, you talk to people. Some people are further ahead than you, and you say, how did you get there? They say, oh, I'm on this acting website. Anyone can sign up to this one, and you can get some low level work. Yeah. And you write it down. And
.com, brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. You fail, basically. You fail as many times as you can. You ask questions, you try it, you go and do it. You figure out that website wasn't so good. Or, oh, I got a lot of success there, I'll keep using that one. You make some money, you reinvest it back in yourself, and you're the investment, right, at this point. So with acting, it very much is like being an athlete. You have to constantly invest in yourself and the skills that are going to pay off. But yeah, it's really about just getting involved in any kind of course you can start with, and then talking to people. Now, there are loads, and then you find out, well, I like this kind of technique. I like doing improv, or I like more of a structure to the way I do it, or a mix of both. Or I've heard about this thing called method acting. Like, what if I read a book? And I always say to people, like, reading is very powerful as an actor, because there are just so many books out there, and that you can kind of, like, when I read a book on acting, or any subjects for that matter, like, if you ever look on my bookshelf, it looks clean on the outside. You see all these lovely books, and then you open them up and it's just highlighter pen everywhere. Like, this is important. That's useless. Oh, I'll use that sometime. And I even will read a book. So the style I ended up settling on that I really love is something called the GLProUK technique, which is pioneered by a lady called Ivana Chubbuck. But her book, to the point, is in tatters, in pieces. It's been read. I've read it back to front 3-4 times. And some of the pages hundreds of times, and I've distilled it into my own little version where I can kind of shorthand it.
Nice.
It's full of notation stuff. I really should buy a new copy, probably. Yeah, and I always say that to people, is like, you kind of do have to become a student of the game if you want to be good at acting. And I'm by no means a great actor yet at all. Like, I kind of consider myself really a puppy in the industry still. And I have people that are aspirational to me, different actors and such. But I just constantly reassess myself and try and constantly put myself back as a beginner and say, I did that thing that got me so far, but do I need to read something else? Do I need to study somewhere else? Do I need to align with this course, that teacher? Do I need to do accent training? Do I need to go and do firearms training because I'm, more gifted in action? Or
I want to get more action roles, or like, do I? Yeah, exactly. I love it.
keep following the learning curve and allow yourself to explore. Like acting is really about living multiple lifetimes in my mind. It's I always say to my girlfriend, I always say, I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes already. And that's not just because of what I've done pre-acting, which is like 10 lifetimes before this, but in acting, it's like a faster cycle of that. You play a role, which is a shade of you, but it's like playing a different side of yourself for a week, a day, a month, or longer. And then you kind of, once it's done, you kind of park it and be like, wow, I didn't know there was that part of me. That's like, and I just did it in this strange environment as like I was a serial killer. And I didn't know I could have been capable of being a serial killer if I'd let that part of my personality take over. Or, I played this romantic role. Wow, I'm definitely more romantic than I thought I was. If So acting is largely about self-exploration and committing to that part of yourself that aligns with the role. At least from what I've learned so far, and from again studying things like the GLProUK technique really helped me understand that. But that's my preferred method at the moment.
What I love about what you said there is that I'm not a great actor and yet came out immediately. I love that mentality because everything you've been saying, right? I can replace what you put in to be a fighter, to be an actor. I can replace it with anything you're trying to do: business, fitness, life, success, love, whatever you need to do, right? It's exactly the same formula. And it's why I'm so excited to have you on the show, because I know what you've been through. Tony's told me about it. I know what you've been through, and to make those like seismic changes of career and life direction takes an awful lot of like mental fortitude, but also it means you start from the bottom again, and you have to be humble and you have to be like, cool, I know nothing, hit me. I know I'm 30 some, whatever, hit me. Yeah, I got loads of life experience, but I'm just treating you like I'm brand new, right? Like I was born yesterday. That's exactly the same mentality that I bring to sales. That case of like, try, fail. Just fail hard, fail consistently, fail as often as you can, and assess that. And then you'll start to like use that failure as success training.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I think if you're failing, as long as you're learning from each failure, you can't help but get more successful. Failure is the practice for success. That's the way you got to look at it. It's like, you're right. You do have to have a humble attitude of, I'm allowing myself to go back and start again. And even in acting, I would say in the last 4 years, I've started again as an actor multiple times, even because I feel like I got to the end of a learning phase and I was like, that wasn't the direction I wanted to go in. I love this, but that's not for me. Or you learn something else about what's going to take you that next stage, and you go, okay, originally I thought I didn't want to do that, but if that's going to take me to the promised land, then I need to actually reconsider that.
Maybe I'm happy to crawl through that field of shit first if it's going to get me to there. That makes a different case.
And going back to your point about a lot of the parallels between what I've said and business and other areas, like the transferable principles of try again and failure stuff. I think that's why a lot of the kind of upper echelons of actors that usually own their own production companies and become producers and directors is, I think they make great businessmen as well, high tier actors, because they recognize it's all, a lot of what we do, even in business, is self-exploration. It's understanding that I made a mistake. How can I get better? And I think the people who don't go far in life, that hit brick walls, are the ones that start believing in their own grandeur and start saying, what I say is always right. Or I know everything. Or I know everything there is to know in this field. It's like, well, then that's when you see them suddenly grind to a halt, and then people overtake them. So I think actors are very interesting people at a high level because they're able to cross transfer their learnings.
And that incredible level of empathy makes them, even if they're not empathetic, they have an incredible level of empathy to be able to, put themselves into roles. Having that in business, super powerful to be like, okay, maybe we're going to come at this from a different way because they're not enjoying this.